All right. Good morning or good afternoon to whenever you are listening to this. Okay, so this is the part two of our kind of our Nearpod structure and whatnot. I understand that sometimes when I'm teaching Nearpods, it isn't always the most engaging because Nearpods aren't really extremely engaging. So rather than standing up here and talking, I'd rather just have you guys be able to pay attention to me being more one-on-one with the video. Okay? So, what we are going to be doing today, all right, we should have completed all of these things yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever you're watching this video, okay? So, you should have started with the Nearpod, then you should be going to the core knowledge, then you should have been doing the defining the feudalism check, and somewhere in between there, you should have gone into the encyclopedia for the notes. Okay, so the encyclopedia for the notes, and the notes I will show you here shortly. So now you should be clicking on the student paste. Okay, so the student paste AP2. So we're going to be learning a little bit about that today. Now, when you click on this, all right, it's going to take you just to the Nearpod. So you're going to have to watch this video as well. All right, so you are going to click on the video, which it hasn't been uploaded yet because I'm currently making it, but it's going to be in this area right underneath of it. You're going to click on the video, and then there is going to be the Take to Safari button. You're going to click Take to Safari, come back to your Schoology page, then you're going to click on this. Okay, you're going to click on this, and then do you know where typically those three dots are, where you could split your screen half on one thing, half on the other? That is what you're going to do. I'm going to link a video, or honestly, you can come up and show me and I'll help you, but you're going to pull it down, move the Schoology to the side, and then open up the video. So the video should be on the right, and Schoology should be on the left. The Schoology should be opened up with the Nearpod, and then this video should be on the right. I will show everyone how to do that within class. If you're confused, I will also upload a video for that. Just email me if you're watching this at home. Regardless, I'm going to get started with the Nearpod. So besides all of that, it might be a little confusing, but it's not as challenging. Okay, we're going to go into our Nearpod. So this is what we're going to be doing or talking about today. So analyzing charts and diagrams. So open the Nearpod app on your iPad, join with the code the teacher has provided. So rather than that, we're just going to be doing it asynchronously, and you are going to be watching this YouTube video. So you learned about the wage gap between social classes in the Middle Ages. Earlier in the year, we saw a similar divide in ancient Rome. We also considered inequality in America. We will do the same today. So you should automatically be thinking about, okay, how can this relate to Rome? You already have a solid foundation and understanding of Rome. Okay, so for the first thing for Rome, remember that there was extremely rich, extremely poor. There was a little bit of people in between, but that gap was still extremely large as well. And we're going to see something like that today. Okay? So what we need to also remember is that the fall of Rome led us into the Middle Ages of where we are today. Okay? Or in this current thing. So we're talking about America in this. Okay? The first thing that we should be looking at is the title. So the title is Income Distribution, so pre-tax. Okay, so while I'm not necessarily wondering, need you to know this, just know it's how much people are making, their income, their salaries. So how U.S. earners' shares of the total household income pie have changed. So this is the changing of the pie chart, okay? So then, after we see the pie chart, the first thing you need to look at is the legend. Okay, we've been talking about this for a while. The reason why we're talking about this today is, hint, hint, it's going to be on your test. So the bottom 50% of income earners, okay, make up 15% of the 7.12 trillion total in 1989. Okay, so the middle 50 to 90% of income earners. So that's your teachers, your bankers, your typical salary job, 42% of that, okay? So top 10% of income earners. So that's people making a lot of money, okay? That's 42%. They are making 42% of that $7.12 trillion, okay? So what you can first tell from this is that the middle earners of that, making roughly a good amount of money, and the high earners are making the same amount of money. Okay, they're splitting almost 50-50 of this, of that 50-50 of the $7.12 million that is brought in America. Okay, so currently in 1989, $7.12 trillion are being brought in, okay, yearly. Now, you're like, okay, that's not awful. Now we're going to look over to here. So this has jumped almost about it has jumped over $5 trillion. Okay, so $12.88 trillion is the total income in 2016. 50% of the people, or 50% of that, is coming from the 10%. So 10% of America's population, okay, or I'm sorry, the top 10% of income earners, okay? So people that are making a lot of money, they're making 50% of this trillion. They're making 50% of this. So this only leaves 6 trillion left for this side, okay? So 37 of them are taking away from that 6 trillion. So we could roughly guess that's about another two, maybe 3, okay? So it's probably going to be closer to 2.5. So that leaves up was $4.5 trillion is shared between the low income, okay? So what we could tell is there's not a lot of people in this extremely rich area. There's a solid amount here, but there's a lot here. So 13% of 13% of the bottom 50% of income earners is taking away from this. So that's a lot of people taking away from not that much money. You think $3 trillion is a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but shared across the board, it's not that much money. Okay? So based on the title, what does the diagram present? Okay? Presents how much money is being brought in the actual year. So the years and the money. Okay? And then examine the key. What are the colors are showing? Okay? So we already talked about this a little bit. This is just something that I need you to do. Well, I'm not trying to be like, you need to memorize this. It's something that you should be kind of aware of because we currently live in America, and this is how the scales of pricing or scales of income have changed over the years. So now, let's think about, okay, medieval, all right? So before we think about medieval, I want you on your end to answer these questions, okay? So answer these questions. What is income? How much money a person spends, the same as GDP, or the amount of a person makes. Who is represented by the color green? The 10 richest Americans, the half of America making the least money, people living in Pennsylvania. Okay, so just as a friendly reminder, you might not want to click on this because it won't be allowing you to go back into it. Okay, or you won't be able to click exit. There's no exit button for that. It will just click exit out of the Nearpod completely, like that happened. Like that happened on Tuesday. Okay, so and finally, how much total money was made in 2016? 100%, 7.2 trillion, 12.88 trillion, about $13 million. Okay, so answer those questions. If you need to pause this at any time or go back to it, you're more than welcome to. Okay, but at this time, if you're not finished with those questions, pause the video and start it back up when you are ready to move on. Okay, so we're moving on now. Okay, so we're going to keep talking about this. How much of wealth does the richest 10% have today? Okay, so it has 50% of America's wealth. Okay, so we can look at this. You're going to be looking at the legend and then looking up here. Looking at the legend, looking up here. Okay, so you're looking for these key things. 10%. This 50, 90, 10%. Good. 10%. We're looking for keys. Look for the keys. So what should stand out about the green section? Okay, bottom 50% of income earners, and they make up 13% or they take away 13% of this. Okay, 50%. That's a lot of people, like we've already stated. Okay, so these are some of the things that I need you to start doing while you're looking at your graphs on your tests and quizzes. Okay, analyzing as much as possible. Okay, so another one. what is one change that took place between 1989 and 2016? Okay, so I just want you to personally think right now. Okay, pause it. Okay, pause the video and just think. Okay, good. Now that I know that you're thinking and analyzing, so what is the second change? Okay, what is the second change? Okay, good. You should be thinking about what changes do you see within these graphs. While I talk to you about what the graphs are and what they represent, what changes do you see? Okay? So you should think about these. Make sure you're analyzing these, okay? And make sure that you're trying to practice, okay? Because this will probably be on the test. Hint, hint. All right. So I'm going to let you answer these next 5 questions. Okay, I'm not going to read them out loud. You are going to do them. You should shoot for at least 3 out of 5 correct. Okay, so pause this video, take your time, analyze, and do what you need to do for answering these questions. Okay, so when you are done, then please play the video again. All right, answer these 5 questions. All right. So here's another one of the graphs. Okay, here's another graph. I know you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, Mr. Charles, well, I've seen a bunch of graphs today. I don't want to see another one. Completely understandable. But I'm trying to get us in that mindset and groove of analyze graphs, break them down, and being able to understand how they are. Okay? So I'm just going to let you answer these 2 by yourself, and then we're going to continue. Okay? How much of the U.S. income did the top 1% control in 1985? So you're going to go 1985. What percent did they control? Just guesstimate. Okay? All right. So if you were thinking 12.25, that's roughly what I would say as well. Okay? Because we can see that like right here would probably be 13 because that's 14. So 13 be here. You could say 12.25 or 12.5 now that I'm looking at it. It's either or. It's pretty close between both. So, how much of the U.S. income did the top 1% control in 2015? The bottom 50%? So, you should be looking for the 1% first. So, in the top 1% control in 2015. So, we go over to 2015. Then we go up. We could roughly say what? Perfect. If you were thinking like a little higher than 20%, that's what I'd be thinking as well. If you would say 20%, I'd give you points on the quiz, but I would highly recommend that you go that extra mile, and because you don't see it right on the line, you go it's a little bit above. Okay? What about the bottom 50%? So how much of the U.S. income did the bottom 50% control in 2015? Okay, so 2015 again. This is the bottom. The blue is the bottom. Then we're going up. Okay, we look over. What would you roughly say that is? Good. Yes, it's pretty much close to about 13%. Okay? It is about 13%. So these are the type of questions that are going to be on your quiz. Okay? They're going to ask you a question, then they're going to ask you, compare it. Question, compare it. Question, compare it. Okay. So we can see that there's a downward trend for the bottom 50% controlling how much income, and there's an upward trend for how much the top 1% has in the income in America. Okay? All right. So let us continue. So now that we got kind of out of America and we get to see the perspective of the rich are always getting richer and the poor are staying relatively down in the dumps. Okay, so now that we get to see that, because sometimes that we think, all right, if it happens back in the day, it's not going to happen now. No way is it going to happen now. Well, unfortunately, it actually could happen now. Okay, or it kind of is, but we don't see it the same way because we have a lot of programs that help people that don't have as much money. Okay, so now when we're looking at this, modern life has a wide economic divides between social classes. There were similar economic divides in the Middle Ages. They were also stretched across politics and culture. So what I highly recommend you do, anytime within any socialized class the rest of your career here at New Oxford, or any school if you transfer, make sure you compare it to us. Compare it to today. Because if you can compare it to today, I promise you it's going to be a little bit easier to understand. And if you ever have a question, ask one of your teachers. Okay? So, yesterday or 2 days ago, you should have learned about this. The king is always at top. Then it's Barnos, and the bishops. Okay? Those are the two that are kind of the second in line. Then you have knights, then you have peasants. Okay? If I ask you a question right now, okay, what do you think this looks like? You saw something similar to this down in CVIS, or if you came from a different school, CVIS taught about something similar. Okay? Remember, there's ancient Egypt. Okay? So do you remember the pyramid? Okay? If you were to turn your screen, okay, facing upwards instead of laying on like the side of like making like a screen, it would look just like a pyramid. Okay? You can even see it. Okay? You have a wide base, starting to get more narrow because not a lot of people are in this. You have someone at the top, then it goes down and it looks like a pyramid. Okay? The pyramid, because there's one really, really important person, or one or two, that second tier holds a solid amount, that third tier holds more, and then the bottom tier holds the most. Okay? You can see those social classes, the top is better. Okay. So while you're looking at this, you're going to answer 2 more questions. Remember, if you click on this, you might have to exit and come back in. Okay? The best way that I could recommend, if you do click on one of these and you want to see it again, if you go back and then go forward after you already answered a question, it should save. Okay? It should save. That's what I saw the other day. All right. So answer these 2 questions, pause the video, and then pick back up after you're done answering these questions. Okay? You should shoot for at least 1. You should get 2. If you get 0, redo it. All right. Pause the video, and when you're done, press play. All right. So, continuing, LEQ 1 focuses on political relationships among the nobles, the upper class of the Middle Ages. Although they were only 10% of the population, they had almost all of the control. So this is only 10% at the time. So you're thinking, first thing that I think of, or you should think of as well, is you're telling me these 3 categories take up 10% of the population. So that means these take up 90. Okay? Peasants take up 90. That is a lot. Okay? So they controlled everything. These are the people in control, and they only made up 10% of the population. Okay. So the diagram above shows a more accurately presents the proportions of the population represented by each social class. Okay, so when you're looking at this, okay, you might see like, oh, it's a lot of people. Okay, but in reality, if you look more deeply into it, it changes a lot. So you have this, the king. You have your barons or barons. Then you have your knights. Then you have your freemen. These are like merchants that travel a lot. Then finally, you have your peasants, people that are your commoners that live on the streets. Okay? Remember that representation of when I was saying that people would open up their windows and just throw trash out? These are the type of people that would be on those streets. Okay? You can see that makes up a lot more than just these couple few people. Okay? So, finally, the last thing that we need to kind of talk about before this,